Hello, how's it going, all of you beautiful people around the world? My name is Ryan, aka, say it with me, Blackbeard TCG, and I'm sure some of you guys may have already heard the news. If not, then don't worry, your boys got you. We have a new banned and restricted list that affects only the English meta. So this comes into effect as of July 28th, which is interesting. So it's not like we have to wait till OPO4 for this to be in effect. This is just going to be happening in 1 week. So literally in 1 week, which is going to be super interesting because I know that there's online regionals coming up. There's going to be some offline offline treasure cups coming up as well. And so because of that, there's people that have play tested with these cards, with these builds, and in 1 week it's going to be changing up, which means the meta will be shifting and changing up. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we go through. So what are the changes? The first hit is Edward Newgate. So Edward Newgate is now on the restricted list. You can no longer have 4 copies of Ninebeard. He is now reduced down to a maximum copy of 1. Now, you know what? This is actually pretty smart in terms of balancing, right? Rather than errataing or anything like this. In fact, everything on this list is just restricted. There's no erratas. It's just limiting the amount of cards you can play in your deck. The reason why I think that this is great is because when you think about it, right? The oppressiveness of getting Edward Newgated into Edward Newgated and sometimes into Edward Newgated is just absolutely absurd. But it can happen, and when it does happen, if you're in that state, you've probably already lost. But the thing about Edward Newgate that I've always said, right, is that his strength is the fact that he is so consistent, right? You add in Whitebeard Pirates, you add in Ezo, and those 2 cards make this deck so powerful because before in OPO2, you couldn't really search for Edward Newgate like that, right? And so because of that, he wasn't as much of a threat. But now, with it just being at your beck and call, it's just too oppressive. So them putting it to 1 copy is fine. Is this going to absolutely kill Whitebeard? You know what's funny? Like, we've seen Whitebeard get hits. We've seen Whitebeard go into many different iterations. I don't think that this will completely kill the deck, but I believe that it's no longer going to be complete S tier. As you guys know, before I said the top 3 decks of the format are Zoro, Law, and Whitebeard. I no longer think that Whitebeard is in that S plus tier. We'll have to wait and see what list people cook up. It'll be interesting because this is an English only restriction, as you can see here. This is only enacted in the English language version. Okay, so it'll be very interesting to see what ends up happening, how people decide to build him, if they decide to keep playing him, because I still believe that he'll be a good leader. If I was to bet right now, I would put him in A tier. So he is definitely going to be a cut below Zoro and Law, but I still believe that there will be builds of Whitebeard that will come up that will still be good, just because at the end of the day, Whitebeard is just a good leader. Now, we have to talk about the next card, Marco. 4-cost Marco. Also, one thing that I want to mention as well is this is one thing that I think Bandai did absolutely amazing. And in the comment section below, let me know what you guys think about this. Because for me, I think that this is absolutely amazing. They specifically say, they stand out and say, please note that this restriction may be lifted upon the release of OPO4. I love this. The reason why I love it is, of course, like, people are excited because they're like, yeah, not as much Whitebeard, like whatever, that's fine. But I like this lever of balancing. And what I mean by that is, if it does come back, fair enough. Like, it is what it is, right? Because then maybe they've determined that, okay, you know what? This deck won't be as powerful with new cards coming into the set. Of course, we know that this is false. Like, I fully believe that this will stay on the list after OPO4 because, we have already seen in Asia how dominant the deck is with no support of OPO4. Literally every list just running OPO3 things and before then, and the deck is still the highest represented deck in the format, taking tournaments, all of those good things. I believe that we're going to see Edward Newgate still on this list. However, with that being said, I like this because this sets a precedent going forward that on set to set, things can change. Now, of course, this happens in many card games, right? But this is where I'm going to bring up 9-cost Marco. Them being able to have this happen during OPO3 in the English version up until OPO4 release will allow them to see, okay, how much dominance does Whitebeard have? They're going to get a lot of playing data with all of these tournaments. I talked about it. We have offline tournaments. We have online tournaments. There's going to be a ton of events going on that they'll be able to collect the data. And if that's the case, then they'll be able to adjust accordingly. So for example, here's Marco. So Marco, when this card's combined with Edward Newgate or Zoro, its on-KO effect serves as a key function for the deck's durability. We all know that 4-cost Marco is very strong. 4-cost Marco is a card that I could easily see being taken off of this list in OP04. I think we see it now to deter people. Like, they really want to hit the Whitebeard gameplay like really hard right now. But I could easily see this card coming off the list in OP04. And yeah, it just makes it so, like, of course, obviously it sucks for some of the people that probably max rated their Whitebeard decks and got 4 copies of like the alt art and all that stuff. Now they can only use 1. Or Marco, for example. But there's always the opportunity of it being lifted up. And I like the fact that because we have all these tournaments lined up, then they can check the data, see if the decks are actually hit, see if further changes need to be made. We'll see if Whitebeard is still oppressive. I don't think so, but we'll see. But it allows them to kind of say, like, okay, like, don't just expect this long term going forward. Because again, they're not banned, they're restricted. But it's good to know that it seems like it's going to be every set, right? Every card on this list will be reviewed every single set. And I hope that's something that is a precedent and that's being set going forward, because I think that's absolutely amazing. So like I said, Marco is going to be a card that I believe is something that's going to be able to come off in OP04, especially when you look at a deck like Vivi in OP04, who uses Marco. Marco's pretty good for her game plan. So, it kind of, Vivi without Marco, can it still work? Yes, but then the deck gets considerably weaker without it. And so I do think that even if Whitebeard still has access to 4 copies of Marco, I don't believe that this is what's making Whitebeard absolutely oppressive. I believe that it's Whitebeard himself, the 9 cost. And then if we go into the last card, Radical Beam, I talked about this in the podcast. And my proposition was that Radical Beam should be eroded for Straw Hat users only. Well, they did me a solid. They went even better. They went even harder. And instead of making it so that it's eroded for Straw Hat users only, they made it so you can only play 1 copy in your deck. This is an absolutely amazing change. I'm completely fine with it, because even though you can only use 1 copy of it, of course, there's things like Buggy, people are still going to play that. There's things like Nami. People are obviously going to still play that in certain Zoro builds. So you think about those things, and Radical Beam will still be searchable, or it will be in Trigger. The thing is now is, of course, as you're facing your opponent, if 1 Radical Beam is used, then you never have to worry about it again as the opposing player, which is absolutely amazing, right? You think of yellow decks, if they're able to see that you have Radical Beam in your life and just put that to the bottom so you never see the Radical Beam until the very end, and then they know that they don't have to play around it, it's going to be absolutely amazing. And for anybody else that's not yellow, again, you're going up against red, then still, it's just the 1 Radical Beam. Once it does come out, then you just know you don't have to deal with it anymore. Guard Point is still a very strong card, but I think it's fine. I think it's Radical Beam that is just absolutely disgusting. I'm completely fine with this being at 1. I think my errata making it Straw Hat only would be a lot of a lighter nerf, right? It would be utilized still in Zoro, for example. It wouldn't be able to be used for Edward Newgate, but now this nerf hits not just Zoro, but it also hits Edward Newgate. So this is a hard hit. We could see this maybe be limited in the future, right? With multiple copies, maybe playing 2 copies potentially. But with that being said, right now it's at 1, and I'm completely fine with this. I think that Radical Beam in conjunction with Ninebeard getting hit will definitely knock Whitebeard down a peg. For now, I'm comfortable saying that the best decks in the format are by far going to be Law and Zoro. So that's basically what's changed. Zoro will still be strong, okay, guys? Zoro will still be a strong deck. I still think that Law, like, it's 1A, 1B for me right now. I really think that Law is absolutely disgusting in this format, okay, guys? I wouldn't be surprised if we just see a lot more people switching to Law. It's interesting because I think about it, I'm like, I wonder if we would see more Other colors start popping up, obviously, with yellow. I'm not too comfortable with the yellow versus Whitebeard matchup, so I don't know if they struggled against this matchup specifically. And then as a result, they'll get better. Obviously, they are nerfed for online regionals, but they might get better for online regionals. So we'll have to wait and see with that. However, I am curious to see if other leaders start to pick up. I know for me, I've been playing Crocodile. I've been having a ton of fun with Crocodile, and I like how the matchup went against Whitebeard, depending on how you played and how you built your Crocodile deck. So I wonder how that's going to affect things, because now we'll mostly have to tech our builds specifically to tailor more towards Zoro and Law again rather than Whitebeard. So it'll be interesting, to say the least, to see how things develop with the meta. But let me know in the comment section below, do you guys like how they specifically said that this is going to be for English only, but things could change for OPO4? And how do you guys feel about this list in general? Good, bad? You guys pissed off? Did you guys get full decked out alt art for your Whitebeard decks and now you can't bling out? Or are you extremely happy because everybody at your locals was playing Whitebeard? Let me know in the comment section below. Yeah, play Law, guys. Just play Law. I'm telling you, play Law. All right, peace.